Check one, check two. I hope this is coming through to you wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whatever you face in whatever place or space you are parked today. You know what's funny? A lot of shit that's not funny is funny, right? Like those fail videos and those compilations and when people trip and fall. Yeah. Or when the Royal Mail sends you stuff that you just didn't order from companies that you don't know, and then you open the package and you get stuff that you don't even know what it is or what it's for. Bizarre. Just bizarre. Trials and tribulations. So I'm going to have to double check my cards and my accounts to see if somebody has been sneaking little orders in without my knowing. This country's ridiculous, right? Um, I was involved in zero fraudulent credit card claims when I was in Europe. Zero in like 20 years. And in the 2 years that I've been here in Blighty, um, Great Britain, which is not really so great anymore. I think they should just call it Britain. Get rid of that ego word. It's as practical as saying fantastic Finland, um, or brilliant Brazil. Or maybe we should have all countries using positive adjectives before the name of the country. Whatever. So 3 problems I've had to solve. 3 problems. At least 3. Come to think of it, there's probably more. Bizarre. Why here? Why is there so much fraud here? There's probably somebody somewhere who knows the answer to that question. It's not me. I don't know. Good afternoon. At least it's almost afternoon. From a windy north of Scotland, the wind is whipping up the water, creating these huge banks of waves that power down onto the beach. The surfers are going to have a great day. I might take the kids down there later as well, if I can persuade them to give up the comfort. I don't want to force them to go because then they will resent the opportunity and not really fully appreciate it as much as they could or should. Always a difficult question when you're a parent how much to push your children to do things, because we don't want to force, but on the other hand we have more experience than they do. So we do want them not to have bad habits. You know, we don't want them to eat lots of the wrong kinds of foods. We don't want them to use the wrong language or inappropriate language. We don't want them to walk around the supermarket with their fingers stuck up their nose. We want them to look smart. So we want to influence them. We do. We want to influence them in a positive way, but we don't want to force them to do everything that we think is the right thing. We do. We want them to brush their teeth. We want them to have a shower every day. Because without that impetus, they maybe would develop bad habits. So we want to influence them, but I don't want to force my kids to do everything that I think is good for them. Um, it's hard because maybe later on down the line, they'll turn around and they'll go, now I understand. Now I see. But I don't want to turn to them and say something like, well, you're going to thank me later for this, even though it's hell now. I don't want to be dictatorial in that kind of way. I want it to be a negotiation. I want it to be a discussion. I want it to involve logic and reason and evidence and all the things that are avoided in all the other learning structures of society. Never easy, is it? It's never easy. But when it works, it's nice, right? You know, when your kids come to you and say, oh, thanks. Thanks, Dad, for setting up this. Thanks for taking us there. Thanks for allowing us to do something. Thanks for giving us a break. Thanks for letting us do what it is that we want to do, right? It's nice. That's the challenge. That's the challenge. The challenge of parenting. The challenge of teaching negotiation. Not dictating, but teaching negotiation. Without the skill of negotiation, it's almost impossible to get anywhere in life. Either when presenting or receiving information. Because a lot of presentation is negotiation. It's an idea. You wish to persuade somebody of something. Even if it's just to go somewhere or try this beer or that glass of wine or whatever. And yet at the same time, people will influence you with their bad habits, right? The drug dealer wants you to have the habit of coming to him when you've got a problem. When if we understood empowerment, I think, begins with understanding negotiation and it begins with a relatively safe selection of choices that become progressively more difficult, progressively riskier. I mean, the people who drive society forward are the risk takers, both good and bad, right? I'm not saying that taking a risk is always a good thing. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are or what you want to do, risk is involved. As I mentioned the other day, business exists to both create and remove risk. Business exists in essence to streamline an idea, a principle, a concept, to make something simpler. But the process of getting to the point of making something simpler, say the transfer of information to people through broadcasting, for example, the process of making things simpler and easier, the collection of data, for example, there are years and years of actions and activities and research that go into the production of these technologies. There's the sourcing of different components and minerals from around the world. There's the transportation, there's the manufacturing, there's the skill set, there's the education, there's the transfer, there's the delivery, there's the sales, there's the marketing, there's the consumption, there's the follow-up, there's the feedback, there's the aftercare. It's a massive system. And the Western system has taken hundreds of years to set up. This model of society, hundreds of years to develop. And if we don't nurture it and care for it, we will lose it. It will be destroyed. And things get burned down faster than they get built up. Right? You know, the planning and permission and building a building, you can easily take 5 to 10 years in this part of the world, right? Easily. And it could burn down in an hour or 2 hours. It can get broken down, broken up, whatever. So, what information are we going to dive into today? Let's just clear my messages from my account. Dun dun dun. There we go. Hopefully that should be cool. Well, not as Facebook is ignoring me. Oh, no, it's not. It's not ignoring me. Oh, we're back. Right. There's no escape from the pop-ups. They're everywhere. Right. We begin with the exploration of the need to always read everything very carefully. To read the small print, to read the fine print, to read about the agendas, to see how the elements connect together, to understand the timelines, So, every month the British government produces some information called Post-it notes, and they send it out to people. And these are guidelines regarding basically what you should think, keeping companies on board. It also gives information about projects that the government is financing and where resources are going. It's far better that it exists than it doesn't exist, but you've got to read through it carefully. Let's just highlight the COVID-19 and social distancing 2-meter advice from the British government. Oh, and if you can hear workmen banging around in the background, they only work when I record videos. It's a special deal, an agreement that we have that the moment I start recording, they have permission to make as much noise as possible. So if you hear that going on in the background, that's what that is. Yeah. So let's read just the important section of this. On the 23rd of June, the Prime Minister of Britain announced new advice coming into effect from the 4th of July. According to the new advice, where it is possible, people should keep 2 meters apart. If it is not possible, then the distance may be reduced to 1 meter plus. So you have to do this unless you can, and in which case you have to do this unless you can, in which case you have to do this. Let's just move the goalposts constantly. If it is not possible, then the distance, yada yada yada, provided that other measures to mitigate any additional risk are taken. This advice applies only to England. The devolved governments have not amended the social distancing advice. Right, advice. See, I should have underlined it again. It sneaked it in the 4th time at the end. There. Yeah, advice. So these are not even guidelines. It's not legislation. It's just advice. It's not law. It's not legal. It's just advice. Now, my question to you is, during the lockdown, how much of what has been enforced was just a guideline or just a piece of advice, not a law, not debated on? Because laws affect everybody's life in society. They need to be debated. They need to be discussed. You need a group of experts and professionals providing sourced, resourced information and data in order to back up their wishes. It's also extremely easily corrupted, as I have covered in the past. Also, advice coming out from the British government Antibody test for COVID-19. There is insufficient scientific evidence to know. Right. Well, there we go. I mean, that's the thank you for a lockdown based on insufficient scientific evidence. Right. Geniuses. Absolute geniuses. Yes. Tests can also reveal those who are unaware that they had COVID-19 because they had mild or no symptoms. No symptoms. So when newspapers are reporting, oh, there's an increase in tested positive cases because everyone's got it, because everyone's had a cold virus, right? Um, people are showing no symptoms. They're not even getting sick. So what's the point in pumping out these numbers if it's not just an agenda? Riddle me that, Batman. Commercial test kits are available for private use. These are of varying quality and results must be interpreted with caution. Well, thank you very much for locking down the entire Western world on insufficient scientific evidence. The genius is loose. The genie is out of the bottle. It's going to be hard to get it back in. Also, according to the government post-it notes, you can get these delivered to your inbox if you want. You just sign up online. Immunity to COVID-19, scientific understanding of the immune response to COVID-19 is incomplete. Thank you very much for shutting down Western society based on more incomplete information. There is little evidence, blah-de-blah-de-blah. So a significant proportion of people exposed to the virus may make very little or no detectable antibodies at all. So why are you testing people? A significant proportion, no detectable antibodies at all. I should have underlined a significant proportion as well. Read carefully, read between the lines where you need to. Also interesting, recent news report. Nice picture of the chief of police, Seattle chief of police, Chief Carmen Best. That's her name actually. Carmen Best. I was thinking Best asked. No, it's her name. Best. She's the best. Asked why two African Americans, and chop because this is the police-free zone. They created a police-free zone because they don't understand society. Wherever you create a space, something will flood in to fill the vacuum. In this case, it'll be drug dealers, gangsters, anybody who wants to abuse people, realizing that who you're gonna call, right? And it's just a raging disaster zone. Well done. Well done. It turns out that there are more whites involved in Black Lives Matter protests than black people. I mean, doesn't that register with people? Right. It's just so backwards. It's so backwards. A bunch of university lefty and because that's the way they're orientated. White people reminding blacks that I don't even get it anymore. I mean, they get Black Lives Matter tearing down the statues of people who ended slavery or tried to end slavery. It's ridiculous. Why don't you go and attack the real enemies? You know, the slave factories of Nike and Apple that are in China. Oh no, you can't because you'll get shot by the Chinese police if you go and protest there, or you'll get thrown into prison, or they'll just cut up and sell off your body parts with the mobile vans that they have driving around. Yes, that's what happens. Or they kidnap you and force you to work in a factory in these sort of slave groups, and then what happens as a result of that? Well, you get raped, and then then it's a forced abortion, and and why don't you go and help those people, right? Or is that just too far away? Yeah, why you're like pissing on your own doorstep, right? I mean, it's not smart. Burning down your own neighborhoods, it's not smart. Yeah, vandalizing local shops. It's not smart. Yeah, not smart, not big, not clever, never has been, never will be. Police Chief Carmen Best asked why 2 African Americans were dead at a place, chop chop, that claimed to be working for Black Lives Matter after a 16-year-old teenager was killed inside the CHOP police resort. What are 16-year-olds doing in there? Oh, and remember they burned and looted all the businesses as well in that area. Yeah, well done, well done. And whenever there's a problem in the area, they have to rush people to medical facilities outside the area. Yep. Meanwhile, there are videos of people just handing out automatic weapons so that so I don't even know what they're going to do with that, right? Despite organizers urging occupiers to abandon the chop zone last week, didn't last long, did it? It still remains very much active and as crime-ridden as ever. A 19-year-old man was shot dead and another wounded during an incident in the area 2 weekends ago. And remember, they don't allow the medical services in. Well, the thing is that they say they do allow medical services in, but the medical services don't go in without police protection because it's not safe for them. Standard operating procedures. But you've never run a company, so you don't understand what standard operating procedures are. A 19-year-old man was shot dead and another wounded during an incident in the area 2 weekends ago. That was followed by a similar incident in the early hours of Monday, which left a 16-year-old dead and a 14-year-old critically wounded, nameless, faceless, in the modern age. During a press conference where she was heckled throughout by Black Lives Matter supporters, the people who caused the chaos in the first place, Police Chief Carmen Best stated, "It's very unfortunate that we have yet another murder in this area identified as the CHOP." This is so funny. Not in the not funny kind of way. 2 African American dead at a place where they claim to be working for Black Lives Matter. Notice how they attack All Lives Matter as well. There's thousands of articles across the internet saying how it's racist to say that all lives matter. Right, so it's bad to say all jobs matter, right? It's mental conditioning for social Darwinism, making us believe that some elements of society are far more important than other elements of society, which is kind of what the opposite of what they should be doing, because don't you want to create a level playing field? Don't you want to create? But then they don't ever want to create a level playing field, right? Because they'll just I don't even know if I should get into some of the things that I know about what's happening with the banning. It's ridiculous. The West has been infected not with a virus that's in essence the classical disease. It's a social virus of an inability to deal with opposite opinions. Look, they've medicated Jordan Peterson. They've shut down the channels of Stefan Molyneux, and then they've created these what can only be described as really fake Wikipedia descriptions that are then used as advertisements for why they should be banned in the first place. It's a lovely sort of circle that they've created. Circles just turn into downward spirals in society, so and eventually society will fall apart, and it'll be because there was never any resistance allowed. Yeah, never any resistance allowed. We have to shut down opposing opinions. I mean, the whole point of free speech is to protect uncomfortable speech, to understand the human mind. Right? If words become negative, if words become bad, if ideas become so bad they can't be talked about, then they can't be discussed, and we can't have an open conversation about the real problems that we have. We can't. It's crazy. We need deep discussions about difficult topics in order for society to move forward. Um, and we need to understand that without that, we're being manipulated. Without really deep conversations, we are being used. Um, and we rather than universities banning certain people, would it not be better to introduce people to them and have an open conversation and then understand how people are affected by ideas? And very often what's banned becomes what's cool, right? Alcohol and prohibition, drugs made illegal. You know, when you're 13, 14, getting to watch a film which has an 18 certificate on it, you know, there's this cool about pushing the line on certain agendas, and it very often backfires, right? When you fight what you hate, as always, you have to be careful that you don't become it. Um, Talking about manipulation, manipulation in the sense of, hey everybody, 2 plus 2 is 5, right? During a May the 18th, 2020 meeting in the Collin County, Texas Commissioner's Court. Now, you could just map this over most regions in the West. Officials detailed a new method, not new method. New method. Is it scientific? And detailed a new method for counting COVID-19 cases. At the Collin County meeting, Aisha Suri of the county's epidemiology department explained how the state's revised definition for COVID-19 probable cases allows for those labelled as probable carriers to be counted as confirmed cases. So for a confirmed case, it stays the same. You still just need PCR lab results, but now they've added a probable case definition so that it still gets counted towards the case count. It's different, it's not confirmed, it's probable, but it's still a case, she said. And this is how language is used to manipulate society, right? It's a case. But what does a case mean, right? What does it mean? Well, you have to make that decision for yourself. You've got to be able to parse the details. You've got to realize that you can't just trust anymore. There's got to be a deeper knowledge. You've got to dig to find the source of the information. You've got to dig to understand the information. And it's a process that takes time. It's a process you have to build up, and you've got to make mistakes. You've got to dig for information, and you begin by finding people who you resonate with, and you begin to learn more about them. And there's a lot of disinformation, misinformation, controlled information that's put out as well. Initially when a lot of movements begin, they're grassroots sourced, but they're very easily taken over. They're very easily corrupted by the introduction of groupthink and the need for monetization of the group and sponsorship, and you want to keep your sponsors happy, right? Just like the kids want to keep their parents happy, right? You've got to build up your knowledge the same way you build up any other skills. You do it over time. First you walk, and then you jog, and then finally you run. Step by step, you run. You've also got to be careful not to get pulled into other people's fights, into other people's problems. You've got to realize that your life is your space, it's your place. You get to choose what you want to face, right? You get to find your own answers. You get to search for your own solution. This is free will. This is what we're given when we're here. This opportunity to choose and to see the results of our actions. To learn to know which voice in your head belongs to you, because everyone's got noise going on inside their head, all those different voices. You got to find that voice that is your voice. Which voice is your voice? It's the positive one. The voice is telling you you won't, you can't, don't. That's not your voice. Universe doesn't have negatives, really. Right? Negatives are a language concept based on positives. Language structure is positive, negative, question. At least the English language is structured that way. First you have a positive statement, then you create a negative statement, then you invert and create a question. Right? That's the way it works. Everything comes from the positive. It must. It must. But then the contradiction is you have to understand the things you don't see and you can't see. Classic example is based on the principle of taxation, right? So we give a certain percentage of our commerce, our work, whatever, in taxation to people who redistribute that. Well, what if, with this idea that society needs it, it's necessary, without it society couldn't grow and develop. But what if we kept it? What if we spent it on the things that we thought mattered? Who's to say that we're wrong? I mean, we're the people, right? Who's to say that it wouldn't be better? It's very hard to argue that it wouldn't be better because it hasn't really been tried. The greatest country without a doubt in modern times that has existed and produced wealth for large groups of people, including minorities. People forget about the success of minorities in Western culture. I mean, look, you want an example? Let's look at black people in sport, right? I hate classing people as white or black. They're just all people to me. You know, white, black, green, brown, pink, purple, tall, short, whatever. You are what you are. I judge you by the content of your character and your words and your ability to keep your word. That's what I judge. That's what I look for. That's what I observe. I don't care about anything else too much, because what matters is being a good moral person down deep inside. But look at the success look at the millions that black people have been able to accumulate in sport because they maybe they should, because they're good at it and it's fun and it's entertainment. Why not? Right? Why not? Look at that. Is that an unequal society? You know, when black people are making more money from the sport than white people, is that an inequality? Is that wrong? No, they should make more because they're better at it, right? They're better at it. Tend to work harder a lot of the time. And that's what should get rewarded. Hard work should bring rewards. Effort should get rewarded. It's one of those things that schools miss out on, right? They don't really judge effort. I mean, there were tests that I took when I was at school many moons ago that I would study for a long period of time, and I get a bad mark in the test. And overall, the mark is fair, but they never really judge the effort put in. Right? Maybe somebody would put in 10% of the work that I put in and get a better mark, and fair enough, right? But then where's the understanding about the method of study then? You know, the schools always teach you what to study. They very rarely explain to you how to make it work. Right? Maybe you'll start a business. Schools. The idea that schools and businesses, the idea is that schools encourage people to start business. Well, that's a topic for another day, right? Maybe I will review and cover that in the next book. By the way, if you haven't picked up any of the 4 leadership books that are out now, you can pick them up free on any of my sites. You could drop me a message to say thank you. Don't have to. Drop me a message to tell me what you don't like. People seem to love to do that. We found this passage on this page and we'd like you to explain. Was everything else okay? Was 99.9% of everything else okay? Or, you know, whatever. So I've covered dealing with criticism before. I'm not going to repeat that. Just realize that you're in charge. Whatever you're doing, wherever you're going, you get to choose the direction to a certain extent, lesser or greater. You can turn around at any point in time. You can walk away from the problem. You can go the other way. Or you can just tune into the absurdness of society. Yeah. Here's a post from ScotRail. Take personal responsibility and help us to keep Scotland's railways safe. Right. I think safety involves lots of technical aspects on the railway. 5 rules for safer travel. Yeah. Number 1, don't travel. If you feel unwell. If you ever feel sick, stay at home. Well, right, nobody would ever do anything, right? There's always some problem. Avoid traveling at these main commuting times. What, like at the times when you have to go to work and come home? Duh. Don't board if you don't think it's safe. It's like if you don't think, right? Oh, I think it's not safe. I better not go. Right, it's a mistake to think that people are thinking. And the picture of the train actually looks like a helicopter. Oh, people. Yeah. Cover your face and maintain physical distancing. It's got this picture of 2 people like getting ready for a sumo wrestle or something like that. And then be patient. Most seats need to be empty. I mean, the logic of public transport, but most seats need to be empty, is just indescribable. I mean, if that passes for logic, I'm sorry. Where are the notes? Got my folder of notes down here on all of the peer-reviewed studies on why wearing a mask is stupid, unless you're a doctor in an operating theater or you work in a contaminated environment. You know, there's dust in the air or parts of metal or whatever, right? Or like you're spray painting or something like that. Yeah. Otherwise, don't wear a mask. It's just stupid. Within 5 seconds of putting on a mask, the oxygen becomes so limited in all masks, becomes so limited within 5 seconds that you begin to develop the first stage of hypoxia within 5 seconds. That's a fact. That's just a fact. That's just a fact that you're not even thinking about. You're such a bad word. Ooh. Danger, 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 Will Robinson. Danger. Danger, Will Robinson. Danger. A lot of the information that I cover tends to point out that the left are wrong, but the right are often equally as wrong. All I can see is that a lot of Democrats have become demons in the USA, and, you know, parse that any way you want to parse it. It doesn't mean that Republicans are really that much better. Doesn't mean that anybody is that much better. It's all a terrible state of affairs. There's huge complaints across the internet that, oh my gosh, Trump says the top 20 most violent cities in the US are Democrat. Well, what do you expect if you defund the police, eh? No, it's not all of them, apparently. It's not all of them. It's just most of them. Most of the current mayors of the cities are Democrats. 2 of the mayors of cities with the most reported violent crimes overall, though, are independents, and 1, the mayor of Jacksonville, is a Republican. Among the 20 cities with the most violent crime per capita, only 1 isn't a Democrat. That's the independent mayor of Springfield. And there's a whole list. The most violent city to live in is New York, because it's all psychopaths basically. They're just going to burn the city to the ground. Wasn't there a film, Escape from New York? Right. You can't escape from the mess you create a lot of the time. New York is most, followed by Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, Philadelphia, Memphis, Detroit, Dallas, Phoenix, Baltimore. Per 10,000 restaurants, it's Memphis, Tennessee, St. Louis, Detroit, Baltimore, Springfield, Little Rock, Stockton, California, Cleveland, San Bernardino, California. It's just California, Californication. Right. According to the Center for Disease Spreading, the Center for Disease Control, .gov, according to their official page, just read through it and read and screenshot and post, and it's just all madness. Tests prove nothing. I screenshotted this and just highlighted it. A positive test shows you might have antibodies from an infection. I should have underlined might, from an infection with the virus that causes COVID-19. However, there is a chance a positive result means you have antibodies from an infection with the virus from the same family of viruses called coronavirus, such as the one that causes the common cold. Dun dun dun. What more do you need to know? What more do you need to know? This is on the official cdc.gov. Let me read that again, in case you were washing the dishes or you got distracted by your kids, or the sun just poked out from behind the cloud. A positive test result shows you might have antibodies from an infection with the virus that causes COVID-19. However, there is a chance a positive result means that you have antibodies from an infection with a virus from the same family of viruses called coronaviruses, such as the one that causes the common cold. You don't even have to create an argument. I mean, they're telling you everything that you need to know. Having antibodies to the virus that causes COVID-19 might provide protection. Well, what's the point of giving people vaccinations with the virus in the vaccination then? Huh? If, might, could, might, may. Do you understand your modal language? Do you understand? Do you understand at all? Right? You've been taken for a ride. You've been taken for a ride. No, they'll take you, and they'll continue to take you for a ride. Next, they'll be not only injecting you with vaccines that don't work, but with all the nice little add-ons that they have that will react against things in the future. Seriously. You think it's not part of a plan? You think that's why Bill Gates was laughing in interviews, laughing about the shutdown, laughing about the return of the virus, laughing about the vaccinations, laughing. Like, you think those comic book bad guy characters are only from comic books? No, that's how one set of real psychopaths behave. The other set are hidden away, right? You never see them. They're not in the news. You can't even Google some people. Yes, I'm serious. You can't even Google some people. I've tried to Google certain people and certain families and certain organizations. Zero information. They're invisible on the internet. Right? It's the hidden world. What's another word for hidden? Occult is another word for hidden. Yeah. Look at that. Look at that logo there. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, yeah, you play around with that plant there. You scientist, you. Yeah. But don't worry, wear a mask because that's what they do in laboratories. No, they wear full body suits with pumped in and pumped out air with, air sealed locks on the doors and wow, yeah, wow. Respect to these people who risk their life every day in these places. Respect. Why do we even have to have this? Can't we just live? Do we have to be insane? Apparently we can't just live. Apparently we have to consistently fight against the insanity that's brought forward on far too regular a basis. If you want to kill time today, go to youtube.com and watch the Lobby-USA, episode 1, subtitled The Covert War. Go and watch to understand how lobbying works in government. So if you want to know about government, that's a pretty good place to start. Watch it with your kids. It will explain a lot of things to them. And also you could go to YouTube and watch some of Stefan Molyneux's videos. Oh no, you can't, because they were just all erased. Along with the work of Gavin McInnes, erased. Book burning, ladies and gentlemen. But you don't see the fire. You don't see the smoke. You don't see the crime. You're being distracted. All part of a plan. All part of a plan. The crimes of society have been the same down throughout history. Yeah. Governments. I mean, what's different between government and mafia, right? Mafia come to your door with a baseball bat and they say, pay us protection money or we break your legs or do something worse, right? Government says, oh, we allow you to work, but we take a percentage of your money, and if you don't give us that percentage, we put you in prison. Softer. It's kinder. We're giving you opportunity to produce. And if you can't produce, we will label you as useless. Produce less. Prod-use. Interesting. Interesting. Just to be clear, governments will tell you everywhere. Governments will invest millions, maybe billions in advertising campaigns in newspapers, on the internet, and sending letters to people's homes reminding them to wear masks. Mask, 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 wear a mask. Wear a mask. Wear a mask. Wear a mask. Everyone should wear a mask. They've done that yet. You can imagine how popular that would be, right? But why just wear a mask? I mean, why not take vitamin D, take zinc, take selenium, take magnesium, reduce your intake of unhealthy foods and unhealthy drinks? Yeah. Why not? Why not? Because they don't really care. It's a game. They don't really care. You got to look after yourself now. That's why I love the video of this husband and wife outside their very large villa with 2 guns telling these black people who have broken into their property, don't know why, they're all black. Oh no, there's a white person. who've broken into their property to get off, otherwise they're going to unload the weapons. There you go, that's freedom. The ability to protect yourself. You're not free if you're not free to protect yourself. Yeah. Your home is your homeland. Defend it. You have to have the ability to defend it. You have to. When seconds matter, the police are only minutes away. Or the ambulances, or whatever, right? 2 ambulances for this entire region. You got more chance of seeing a ghost, I think. Underfunded, right? Because people have spent all their money on posters telling everybody to be 2 meters apart. But it's okay to play football. Because it's all about the greens, the rubs, the dollars, the money, right? It's all about that. Well, what do? Find a way around? Clear your mind? Bake a cake? What do? It can be exhausting. You got to keep your mind healthy. It can be exhausting. The daily basis, the daily process. Steer clear of the agenda. Steer clear of the propaganda. Turn off your TV. I haven't watched TV for about 20 years. That has helped me to keep some level of focus. Just some level of focus. Are you artistic? Create some art. Yeah. Find some twigs on the beach. Paint a picture. Paint a wall. Free your mind. There was a song, wasn't there? Free your mind and the rest will follow. Be colorblind, don't be so shallow. Where's that song now? Why isn't that song played on the radio? Or maybe it is. I don't listen to the radio either. So there you go. Use the skills you have. Respond intellectually, intelligently. Respond, don't react. Respond, don't react. Check out the work of PragerU. Some great interviews pumped out recently. Didn't they get banned? They got banned from a lot of platforms as well. Just for interviewing people. Just for having an opinion. Yeah. First they label you, they stick these labels on you, they slander you, and then they use that to try to destroy you. That's what happens if you're on the internet these days. It's been the same struggle down throughout history. This fight of good and bad. This struggle to understand what freedom is, what liberties are, how to collect them, how to protect them. That's why it's mad to try to destroy the society we've built. It's also mad to think that there's not going to be a challenge to the things that are good. It has existed forever. Why do you think they don't want people to read the Bible now? They don't want people to understand the same things are happening today that happened thousands of years ago. They don't want you to understand. They don't want you to remember. They want to fill your head with fluff and stuff, sticky thoughts. Keep you trapped in a syrupy mindset. You can check out thewallwillfall.org, a review of science relevant to COVID-19 social policy. A review of science relevant to COVID-19 social policy. That's true. It's good. Also, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you have to hold yourself accountable to not only the choices you make today, but to the plans you have for the future, for who you are willing to become. That is part of your success, based on your choices, your ideas. Every day is a series of choices. It's a series of micro actions that build up the macro picture. Each day look around. See what you can see. Understand what it is that you are seeing. Understand what it is that's happening. You know, they used to say that if you can't draw it, you can't really see it. If you can't draw it, you can't really see it. Have you ever tried to draw the world around about you? Have you ever tried to draw people? Have you ever tried to draw animals? Because through the drawing and the study and the attention to detail comes an understanding of what it is that you are seeing. For sure, for sure. My name's G. I represent the Academy. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I wish you an absolutely fantastic day. If you want to reach out and touch, if you want to share some articles, then let me know. If you disagree, I'm happy to debate and listen. And as always, take care of those around about you, and don't forget to tell the ones you love that you love them. Peace out. I'll be back. Perhaps. Have a good one.